welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. I hope you enjoy the show, and thank you for tuning in. Well, I have the pleasure of having two guests with me today, one that's been here before in the station and one that's been here via Zoom, but thankfully he's here with us in person too, so that's great. I have Carol Ziske. She's the Vice President of the Press Box Theater, Stage Director of the Fantastics, Love Letters, and I Do. And William Linster. He's the President and Artistic Director of also the Press Box Theater, Music Director of the Fantastics, and I Do. So I want to welcome them both to the station today. And thank you both for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming back.
All right.
Carol, you made the trip. William, you've made the trip.
Sure. Well, I had to see the inside of the studio in person.
Oh, good, good. Yeah. So, Carol, let's start with you, like I like to do, and I'll come to you, William, right after that, is an introduction of each guest to the viewer. So why don't you take us back into your background? Let us get to know you.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you again for having me here today.
You're welcome.
I will make it brief. I have a long career in the theater, both on stage and off stage as a director. Started out in theater, actually radio, when I was a young child in Detroit, Michigan, and attended University of Michigan, majoring in theater, came to New York with my equity card, and made a career as an actress in musical theater for several years, with touring companies, residential theaters, also Broadway, off-Broadway, and cabaret and dinner theaters. I guess that covers all of it. Moved to Connecticut and sort of fell into the directing end of the business, first as a directing teacher at a private school in Connecticut for 13 seasons or semesters. And during that time, I also started working in the Boston area and in off-Broadway in theater and also cabaret. And now fast forward, after many shows directing both straight plays and musical theater, I was so fortunate to meet William. And about 3 years ago, we started collaborating on a new musical called Hurricane Jimmy, and that we did in a workshop production, but it's on our calendar at the Press Box for next spring. And that's pretty much it.
Well, I think the viewer will probably say she was an actress for so long and then directing came along. What happened? Did you decide to leave acting and move over? Was there a transition?
No, I really didn't leave acting. I had a family, I had children, and decided that was the best thing to do, was stay home and raise my boys. But my husband had an interview for that directing position, but he felt that was not really something he wanted to go to the interview for, and I thought it would be appropriate for someone to show up, and that person was me, and that opened the door.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's what happened, and I loved it from the first time I had the opportunity to direct.
Okay, William, you're on the hot spot right now. Why don't you introduce yourself to the viewer?
Well, let me just preface this by saying my resume is not nearly as long as Carol's.
But you're a lot younger, William.
Well,
You'll
yes,
get there.
Okay, all right. Well, no, but I'm William Linster, and I'm a music director, composer, anything and everything that they need me to be at the Press Box Theater.
Right.
You'll find me every day hanging lights, doing this, doing that. So artistic director is sort of just a symbolic title. It's all really that we do everything that we need to do to get the show on. Mm-hmm. But my background is I'm a Connecticut native. Grew up in Woodbury and Southbury in that area, and went to school in New York. Studied my piano concentration at the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music in Greenwich Village, and got into I had always had sort of a theatrical background growing up. I had done some different things on the stage and also in pits, but it wasn't until college when I started to do some arranging work for a new musical in New York that the that sort of became my primary focus. Because at that time I sort of loved all these different kinds of things with music, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But I think that the great thing about college, especially, and for people in the arts, is it better than showing you what you want to do, it tells you what you don't want to do. And so because going into it, I had sort of these preconceived notions of what I wanted to do in terms of the performing arts, of being primarily piano player, things of that nature. And so just the opportunities arose, and I seemed to take to them well, and so that's how through that arranging job was how I met my collaborator on we wrote 4 musicals together, Larry Alexander, who was an older gentleman who's a veteran screenwriter in Hollywood for some major series like Charlie's Angels and The $6 Million Man and all these, on and on and on. And he was looking for a composer. And at that point, I hadn't really composed anything to speak of, but it was an opportunity, and I took it. And fast forward 5 years later, we wrote 4 full-length musicals together. Unfortunately, he's since passed, but it's sort of become my mission ever since then to get these works of ours on the stage, and that's sort of one of the reasons why, just out of necessity, that this theater came about, was that we were in the process of having stage readings that were incredibly well received, thankfully, of Quentin, a Roosevelt musical, which was the last show that we had written together. And we had, because of Lauren Yarger, the wonderful producer extraordinaire that she is, we were able to find a home at the Palace Theater, and also we ended up self-producing. And we had, every reading was sold out. Everything was incredibly well received. But the problem was with the self-producing thing, which we were doing, when we weren't at the Palace, it was getting too astronomically expensive for, us. We don't have any real funding behind us at this point. So to rent out these spaces, to haul everything there, and but we had in Southbury for many years, my family, the family business is newspapers in my family, and we had at their office in Southbury, we had this warehouse space, and which was sort of just that. I mean, it was just taking up space. It wasn't being used.
It had a little stage.
It had well, that was a result of my grandfather, who's always been my biggest supporter. He had actually, when the building was built, he had built me a stage because he knew of my
talent.
Well, my performing background, and he was always my biggest supporter and still continues to be. But anyway, so to fast forward, not to take up too much of time in explanation, but we ended up having our dress rehearsals in this space, and we figured, why shell out all this money in renting a venue and all this kind of stuff, all this labor, and why don't we just turn this space that we have into a theater? And so we just sort of took that and ran with it, and we had our first sort of preview performance in May with Quentin there, a Roosevelt musical there. 2 sold-out shows, phenomenally well received, and we said, yeah, this is a definite need in this area, because the one thing we were hearing with that, and with now the shows that we're doing now with the Fantastics just this weekend, which we did, which we had 3 fantastic, for lack of a better word, sold-out shows to conclude the run, was that people have just, in that area, are just saying how much that they needed a theater in that area, because there hadn't been one for decades in that area, in town and in the surrounding towns around it. And so when this came about, just people started coming out of the woodwork saying, just thank you, and how enthusiastic they are about this theater being there in town and accessible, especially for a lot of the older community that live around there and don't necessarily want to travel to a 20-30 minute car ride to go to a theater. It's just, with Quentin was such a success there that we said, why don't we just put together a season, and
we did.
And that's what we did.
Okay, let's hold that thought and take a break, okay?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned in to Arts and Entertainment, and we'll be right back.
Running out of time to renew your passport? Don't turn to phony websites filled with fake promises. It can take 6 weeks or more to get a passport. So if you plan to travel internationally, you might be looking for a site to expedite the process. But beware of scams. One Connecticut consumer recently reported to Better Business Bureau's scam tracker that when her local post office ran out of forms, she went to the internet to print one off. Not only did the site charge her for the form, but in filling it out online, she shared important personal information like her social security number with the scammer. And when she went to the post office, they informed her that she had indeed been scammed. While there is a charge to get a passport, the forms themselves are free. And appointments with the State Department's passport centers also won't cost you a dime. If you're running out of time, you can opt for expedited services and shipping through the official government website. That's travel.state.gov. And before you jet off on your next trip, visit bbb.org/travel for more tips.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying the show. My conversation continues on with Carol and William. And Carol, we were talking about the League of Professional Theater Women, which is now Connecticut Women Theater Network, and you're a very big part of that. Please tell us what that's all about. I have Lauren on, I'm a member, it's important. Share your thoughts on it.
Yes, it is very important. Sometimes, especially for playwrights, we have many playwrights in this organization. And a playwright, like a director, is kind of, for want of a better word, lonely position. You work alone, your creative ideas are alone, and sometimes you need to have other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing to knock ideas around with, and also opportunities, we've changed our name to network with other people. All over the state of Connecticut, there's an enormous amount of women who are writing plays, producing plays, and acting in plays, and a few directors also. And it's, for myself personally, it's been a real door-opening experience. If I had not met the women at the League, as it was called before, and now the network, I would not be sitting here today, because it was through Lauren Yarger that she gave me an opportunity to, I should say, reinvent the wheel for myself and directing at Ironton Playhouse.
That's where I met you. That's where I found you.
Yes, yeah. And that was an interesting thing, because I had been on that stage many years before doing Jesus Christ Superstar with Craig Lucas, who has gone on to become quite a well-known playwright. So that was the last time I had had my feet in that theater in the artistic end of it. And so I'm ever grateful to Lauren and her continued support for myself and for William and what we're doing. And she is a quiet, steadfast, loyal supporter of the arts.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
And a wonderful guest, and very well received on this show. So
Sometimes see if you can get Mary Miko on. Mary's been...
I've had Mary
Mary,
on.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's delightful. You know, she and Lauren were two of the three women
Yes.
that formed the Connecticut chapter.
Yes.
And we have a lot of marvelous programs. I do not have the website in my head, I'm sorry, but if you look up the name on the internet, we will be accepting applications in the next few months for new members. our membership has grown enormously in the last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Pressbox Theater. William, let's talk about the PressboxTheater.com, the website. What will the viewer find when they visit it?
Well, we always are still, it's sort of in the process of being fully built out as we build up our 2026 season. But we like to have, at least our initial programming for the remainder of 2025, which include Love Letters coming up this weekend with Diana Canova, star of Soap, and with the two-person musical I Do, which is in October, and a few other events mixed in here and there. But in addition to that, there's also information on how individuals and also local businesses and things like that can get involved with the theater, can donate, because this is, in running a theater, as I'm sure many of the people watching this know, is a very expensive thing to do, especially when you don't have a large institution behind you, at least at this point. So there are a lot of those opportunities for sponsorship, corporate sponsorship, as well as individual giving. And we've had a number of individuals do that so far, and they're absolutely fantastic, and we thank them very much for doing that. In addition to that, the space is also available for rental. That is also available information regarding that on the website. And one thing that we have yet to put on the website that actually I've liked to announce actually is that we're going to start accepting new plays submissions. As we build out our 2026 season, we think it's important that there be enough venues, at least in this area and in the state of Connecticut, that do accept unsolicited scripts from people that don't necessarily have agent representation, because I've been in that position myself, so I know how hard it sometimes can be to get your own work onto a stage. And one thing that we found is just so much talent throughout the state of Connecticut that deserves to be heard and deserves to be seen. And so that a formal announcement of that and how to submit that is going to be coming onto our social media feeds and the website in the coming days.
Right, that would be in the early part of the year. So if people are interested in that would be in the early part of 2026. We're also going to have something in the month of June that would be recognizing our 250th anniversary of the United States, and that will involve music and the written word. And we haven't announced a summer program for children, but we will be having that also.
Okay.
A lot of parents are
Carol,
interested in
how
that.
do you decide what your season's going to be? We're in the end of 2025, we're moving into 2026. How do you decide what plays you're going to take on?
Oh, well, we listen to people's suggestions, and then we discuss. We have some ideas. We're just waiting to get back information as to availability, because that always takes some time.
Regarding the licensing and
Yes.
things of that nature.
Yes, I hear
Right.
licensing is always an issue.
Yes, so that's why we're not sitting here and saying, oh, this is exactly what's happening, because it's
Although there will be, what I can say is that once the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, there will be a number of shows in our 2026 season, hopefully, that will be very, very exciting and familiar to people that they will definitely want to check out. But what Carol was saying about listening to those around us and what people want is that, because the good thing about there being such an artistic sort of a void in this area of Connecticut that the Pressbox Theater is in for so many years is that people, you just ask them what they want to see and they'll tell you exactly what they want, and that goes for audiences as well as the actors and the crew, they're just, they know what they like, they know what they've always wanted to do, and we'd like to do that as best we can and to listen to all those suggestions. So 2026 is definitely going to look like a very promising year for us at the Press Box Theater.
It's going to be full. Let's put it that way.
We're
We're not going to have any empty downtime.
Or sleep.
Speaking of that, the Press Box Theater, tell us, it's a black box theater, and you said 75 seats.
Yes.
Is that what a black box theater means?
Well, you want to take it, Carol?
Well, as opposed to, like, even at Taft School in Watertown, they have a beautiful theater that is a mock-up of the Globe in, overseas in England. And it's, I don't want to quote exact numbers, but it's under 500 seats. A black box theater is very intimate, and the audience feels very connected to the actors. So this theater, what's really marvelous about it is that you can take a larger show and scale it down, and you could also have a small thing like we're doing with the Fantastics. You could bring in a jazz group. You could have a comedy show. So to me, a comedy show really works. The original idea, like when I lived in New York, people would go to all the different comedy clubs. Now, if you go to see a comedy act and you have to use your binoculars, it's not the same thing. You can't insult the guy on the stage as easily, and he in turn can't insult you back. Any comedian worth his salt, other than wanting that big paycheck, would rather be in that small place. And most actors like to be in that small space. They like that feeling. When we just finished the Fantastics, my goal was to have it to be as close to Sullivan Street Theater in New York, longest running show in the history of musical theater. We had a stage the exact same size, the set the exact same size, and the orchestra the same size, and the theater the same size. So and that's why it worked. Sometimes a show doesn't work because the venue is too big. I've done some shows that have gone to the producer and said to them, why didn't that work in New York? And they said, well, it was at the St. James. It should have been in an off-Broadway or a mid-size house. Yeah.
And if I could just add on to that, I think that that's one of the, what some people may see as a potential downside of the theater with the amount of space that we have and the amount of seats, with just being 75, we actually see as a major strength, because there's all over the place, around the state, around New England, there are so many venues that are large. You can go to any theater above 1,000 seats. They're in a lot of different places, arenas, things of that nature. What there really isn't a lot of is an intimate venue that does pride itself on putting on the best show possible, but also in that intimate setting where it's a totally different experience for an audience member, because they feel that in a sense the show is just for them. That the actors are actually speaking to them, that they are in the story in a way that you don't necessarily get in a larger house. We've just had rave reviews with the Fantastics that people have just absolutely loved it. So there's definitely a need for it, and
It's exciting, Deborah.
yeah, very exciting.
We are getting close to ending
No.
the program.
Oh, boy.
Carol, any closing thoughts before we go?
My closing thought is theater is magic, theater is healing, theater is introspective, and theater lets us lose the cares that we come into the door with, and hopefully make us feel better about ourselves and the world.
Well, I think all of us want to wish you both continued success and congratulations. I'm so happy for both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What an incredible endeavor to start a brand new theater in the state of Connecticut. I think it's tremendous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you for being here today.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you for having us.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, I'm Deborah Gilbert. You tuned into Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time.